Twilight. Twilight Eclipse. Twilight Eclipse. Where to begin about this? I think I have to start off by saying it's better than the first two. That's not saying much, but it is better than the first two. I guess I'll get like the side notes out of the way actually first. You'll notice the CGI has been greatly improved. I know a lot of other internet reviewers immediately see CGI and they dismiss it and they're like, oh, it looks fake, it looks fake. Well, because it is fake. But I have to give credit where credit's due. The CGI, specifically on the werewolves, is really good in this movie. They look fairly real. Like, as far as a 6.5-foot tall wolf goes, they look pretty good. So I want to start off something positive. So hey, props to the company for greatly improving their CGI. Another great part about this movie was the soundtrack. It was full of some really good independent artists with some really solid songs. Like other Twilight movies that had a great soundtrack, but the songs were just completely misplaced. They are not at all relevant or appropriate to the scene they're being played in. The acting is still horrendous. It's really bad. There are some solid actors in this cast, but a lot of the movie is just forced and very contrived, and it does take away from the viewing experience. Side notes out of the way. I guess we'll get down to the most important part, is the story. Obviously, the bizarre love triangle of vampire, human girl, and werewolf is still going on, strange as that may be. The basic plot during this one, on top of the Dawson's Creek drama, is that there's this new breed of vampires. They're in Seattle, just outside of the city where the Twilight movies take place in. And basically, they're evil. Why are they evil? We're not really told, because let's face it, character development hasn't really been a priority for Twilight since its inception. So, these guys are evil. We do find out later on why. It's really watered down, but I'll get to that later on. As far as actually sticking to the plot, it does do a much better job than the first two movies. It does have its little branching off side distractions that we had in the other Twilight movies, but it's not as bad. They do stay on the road pretty well. It's like if you have like a little niece or nephew and you're taking them by the hand and you're going to the store, and every time they see something distracting, they wander away. Where now this kid has gotten a year or two older, he's a little more disciplined, so he'll see something distracting, but it'll be a momentary glance, and then back, on the path they're going on. So I guess little Twilight's growing up. I guess we can say that. The plot was a decent concept. I just wish it would have been maybe focused on a little more properly. It was just pretty much, there's evil vampires. Oh no! Marry me. Like, it had its potential for a really cool plot, and once again, it kind of dropped the ball because it was trying to focus on this watered down love triangle that also is extremely convoluted, and I'm going to try to stop being so mean. The characters. This is where the movie was a lot different, pardon me, from the previous Twilight films. Character development was pretty much all but non-existent in the first two. Like, you had the characters all lined up, you knew who they were, but you didn't really know much about them. You had, like, a basic knowledge about Edward, you had a basic knowledge about Bella. They did a great job with the character of Jacob because, let's face it, he was the only three-dimensional character in the second movie, so pretty weak character development on the most part, where this movie, it felt like it was backtracking almost too much, trying to overindulge in character development all of a sudden. A great example for that is the character of Jasper. He's been maybe a dime short of comic relief for the first two movies, because he's just, the new guy who sits there trying not to eat you because he's a vampire, and it's comedic. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but I always chuckled when I saw him on screen. Where in this movie, he has a lot of depth. He really is explored is well done. It is very well explored. It's handled quite well, and the actor himself proved that he can really hang better than most of the rest of the cast. Really, he stole a show for a good portion of it, and had he remained more on screen, I think he would have stolen the show. So, to a guy who played Jasper, hey, good work. You're more than just a good musician. And yes, he has a band. Look it up. The character of Jacob, I think they were trying to backtrack a little too much because they made him maybe too likable in the last movie. Like I said, he was the only character that I kind of liked because he actually had some depth. So in this movie, he still has that depth, but in a way he's kind of a whiny, sulky brat in this movie, and you can tell it's an attempt to make him less liked. Like, he now has quite a smart mouth on him. Like, he's lipping off at a lot of people. And I know it's supposed to try and, like, you know, maybe implant that, oh, maybe he's not that nice a guy. Personally, I like it. This guy's been screwed over. He's been wronged. He's been hurt. And now he's venting that hurt. I mean, that's human nature. So you can't hate a guy for that. What does make him a lot less likable is that now he spends every scene that he's in telling Bella, I love you, we need to be together, and you love me, you just don't know it yet. No one talks like this. Like, we all have people that we've cared about throughout our life so much that it actually maybe causes us pain. And if we actually do ever say anything to them, it'll be once or twice. It won't be every single time we see them. It made his character repetitive and at times excruciating. And it's a real shame that they took probably the best character from the previous movie and they made him nothing short of a whiny bitch. The character of Edward finally got some character development. You know, 2 movies too late, but hey, whatever, you know, better late than never. And we still don't really cover that much about him. He's still really boring. He's just not that entertaining. He does emote more in this movie, and he actually has some witty lines, so they're trying to maybe give him a little bit of charisma, but it feels like it's too little too late. Like, we're used to him being just this brooding, staring clod who everyone wonders, with the exception of being good looking, what is he contributing to this movie? Character of Bella, she's still Bella. She's still manipulative and pretentious and borderline sociopathic. She says she loves this guy, says she loves this guy, but she's pretty much willing for them to kill each other for her. Like, she'll tell them, oh, stop fighting, but she doesn't really do anything to prove that she wants them to stop fighting. If anything, she continues to throw fuel on the fire. So, I just don't like Bella. I think she's like the worst character in the history of movies. She's manipulative, she's pretentious, and why people think that this is a good example for young ladies of this generation, whatever. I'm just going to digress on that. She's not even worth our time. Like I said, a lot of the banter has been improved in this movie. Like, there's actually some jokes that are funny. I think there's 1 or 2 that actually kind of made me chuckle, and a lot that kind of put a smirk on my face. Most of which were Jacob's smart-ass remarks to Edward or the rest of the Cullen clan. But they're trying to mix it up a little bit. It's not just this brooding Dawson's Creek with vampires aspect, because they have these great plot ideas, but it's watered down with melodrama. So if they can get over that and really focus on these plots of theirs, because, like, for example, the villains of this movie, I'm so sorry. Because the villains of this movie are, we don't know really what their motivation is. Like, we find out at the end that kind of the ringleader of this new gang of vampires, that's pretty much who the bad guys are. It's this army of new blood vampires who are supposed to be so powerful and so evil. And they've aligned themselves with someone from the previous movies. And we're not really told as to why. Like, we get a very watered down, very convoluted excuse for him near the end of the movie, but even then it feels incredibly tacked on, and that doesn't explain the rest of this army, who is actually like maybe between 8 to 10 other new vampires, and like all movie they're prepping up like, oh, this army of evil vampires, and during the big battle scene, which was very well done, very well choreographed, it was a great battle scene for the 1.5 minutes that it lasted. It was incredibly anticlimactic. It was like the final battle of Transformers 2. It gets pumped up and pumped up and pumped up, and then it happens, and it's like, done. Like, really? What? So, girls, it's more of the same, if not improved, so you'll like it. Guys, take a book and try this, enjoy the jokes, and that's really all I've got for it. Full written review, liveinlimbo.com, and hope this helps you when you decide to go and give your life to pale, uncharismatic vampires.